Welcome to another week of our Heartstorms, my friends. I'm really excited for today. A little bit change in the schedule. We're gonna be moving our Hearthstone calls to Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Damn, I cooked that. How did you see that? See that? But yeah, we're yeah, we're gonna be moving into Monday. We feel it's a better way to approach it. That way that we can all kick off the week together on the right foot. And yeah, we're gonna be having some guests. Like I've been stockpiling a lot of confirmations from really high level professionals for the last year or so, who are all about coming in and hosting. And being a guest for the Hearthstones and the podcast. So we're gonna be having a lot of really high level people from all over the country, all over the world, joining us and dropping gems. And yeah, everything's coming together beautifully. Everything's coming together beautiful. How are you gentlemen doing today? How's life? How's life?
Carlos,
Doing
oh, go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Alex.
No, go
Go.
ahead.
Actually, no, it's good as a train going by. You.
Right on, right on. Yeah, this has been a great week. It's kind of fun because we started this fast. And Brian, I'm gonna give you shout outs, bro. I felt like you got the ball rolling and it was on the last week's Heartstorm call. So here we are. I love how organic this movement is really building. And it's really exciting to see all the high level people and all the newcomers really hungry for knowledge, really hungry to contribute. And these Heartstorm calls have been very cornerstone to all this development. So, how I'm doing, guys, is I'm doing fan freaking tastic today.
I love it. And honestly, big shout out to Ryan for real. You really lit that fire, my brother. We love to see it. So that we can get this going, and it's been so awesome. I've been reading the chat and seeing how many downloads we're all getting, because that's what happens. Like when we start removing all of that extra shit, we can start really tapping into the realness. And I can tell, and I'll share as well, like how I'm doing. I'm doing pretty great. Definitely yesterday night was the hardest when it came to the food. Especially because I just kept working till about 10. So it was just I was like, wow, okay. But I was very hungry. But today I woke up and I was like, okay, it's not too bad. So I'm just appreciating it. Like we're not even 48 hours in. I don't know how I'm gonna feel later today. But right now I feel pretty good. I feel pretty energized and yeah, I have a lot of clarity. I've been getting a lot of downloads and yeah. Like a lot of growth happening.
Guys, I got to throw in one thing to this.
Do it, brother. Do it.
So this morning I woke up at like 5:30 in like my normal time and I've really kept my days very light. Because I want to really honor myself because I'm really getting over a 3 year stint of burnout. So I'm really like honoring that and giving myself a lot of space. And so I fell back asleep and I had two back-to-back dreams, Brian, specifically. I'm talking to you about dreams.
There you
I had
go.
the, I had these dreams where I was like eating something, and in my dream, I'm like rationalizing, like, "Oh, this is just part of the fast." And then like I hear like my conscious brain coming. It's like, "No, dude, that's not part of the fast. What are you doing? What is going on?" So I wake up laughing. I'm like, "Oh, that was a dream. It felt so real." I was like, and I just woke up laughing hysterically. And one of the things I was eating was a chocolate covered nut bar. And one of my students like, "Bro, you can have this. It's okay." And I'm just like eating it in the dream, like, "Oh, this is so good." But then like my brain's like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing? You're on a fast."
Bro, the fact that you've been dreaming about even in your dreams is food, bro. Like it's like shit's real. That's how shit is real. I mean, Brian was probably, dreaming about he says he was thinking about eating something else. So, it's all related. It's all related. No, but I love dreams. Yeah, I usually forget mine. I usually forget mine right away. I saw what Amira said about writing them down, and I've been thinking about getting like a dream journal and starting to write them down. Because sometimes I get dreams and I'm like, oh my God, that was so cool, like this and that. 30 minutes later, I'm like, why was I saying it was so cool? Like I don't remember it. Dude, Sean, I see your hand is up though. What's up, my brother? Chicago, Sean. Let me get that right.
Sorry, guys, it's a little noisy downtown Chicago here. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. I got my headphones in. So it's funny that you guys mentioned dreams because after the first night of the cleanse, I was in this parallel. I call dreams parallel realities because that's what they are to me. They're really just parallel realities. Um, but me, my brother, my mom, my dad, a bunch of my friends, we were like in this basement, and y'all remember that movie Michael Myers Halloween? Dude, so Michael Myers was like coming at us, and I realized I was in a dream, so we whooped his ass, bro. We crunched
Yeah.
him in this concrete bed. We kicked his head off, and he turned into like this straw character. So I didn't have a dream about food. I don't think he was trying to entice us with burgers. I think he was just trying to get us. But it was really funny because I have a lot of dreams, and they're strange. But that was very distinct and interesting timing. So I'm right up right with you guys with the weird dreams during this fast. It's funny, man. I dream a lot, as Carlos and I talked about. But yeah, that was funny, man. We beat the heck out of Michael Myers, man. He didn't stand a chance. He thought he did, but boom.
That is freaking hilarious. That you should make that like the sequel for the next Halloween movie. Freaking torches destroying you, beat him up. I love it.
Dude, we crushed him. Like literally crushed him. My mom like picked her up with his mind. Like we crushed him in this bed and then we kicked his straw head off. It was very strange, but that's typical for my dreams. Just really funny timing. And we make it like a number 10 or whatever it would be. There's so many of those movies.
All right, so let's stop talking about food. I was
Topic
doing
10.
great. I mentioned at the beginning of this call I was doing great. Now my brain is like, oh yeah, I remember that thing. No, but it's all good. So yeah, like, what do we wanna dive into today for today's Heartstorm? Like, what's coming up? What's been coming up for you guys, um, since we last met last week?
Yeah. So, you know, what's interesting too about just the one more touch, and we'll get
Yeah.
into this. What I acknowledge about the Heartstorm calls, I find them to be such a great opportunity for men to speak and like share creatively. And in my day to day, when I'm consulting my students and a bunch of different people, and families especially, I notice that a lot of people don't have a space where they can just share things without people judging it, defending something, making it right or wrong, agreeing or disagreeing. Like, I find that now, like, that space is so important, especially for men, because I find that men are taught not to feel their feelings and they just suck it up and bury it. And I find that men, as we communicate about these things in a space like this, it helps us move through those heavy things we didn't know we had to move through, or maybe we did know. So I find that to be so powerful and so relevant to today's day and age. And speaking of which, getting to the heart of the matter, speaking of the food, what's interesting to me is I'm looking into my cupboards in my kitchen, and I'm like stockpiled with all the good foods, like all of them, like all the fruits, like no vegetables. I don't have that, but I have dried fruit. I have all these things, all the good meats and everything. And I'm looking in here, and I'm like, when I can process my emotions and I can really work through things, I notice that I don't crave certain foods. What I crave is like nutrients and like having a balanced nutrients in my diet. And that looks like having good fruits, good vegetables, good proteins, and just eating all of the good foods. And I've noticed that that's so helpful for me. So to answer your question, Carlos, I'm curious with you guys, like, as you like talk about your emotions or talk things out, like how does that help you in your day to day? For me, it helps me just see things very clearly in my next steps.
Sean, I see your hand up. You can go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting because, in our culture, we call them calories, we call it protein. And, I think that these are valid in a certain context, but to me, it's information. So it's like if I'm just rushing to go to food, it's like what information am I really trying to get right now? Like, what am I trying to process, and what information do I actually need? It's like I could have the best piece of information, but if it's to the right person at the wrong time, it really doesn't mean anything. So it's like, what is the timing of why I'm hungry? What information am I really craving? And then as a result of that, it's like, is it really something that I need to put in my mouth? Or is it like you're talking about? Is it like a conversation? A lot of the time, I think it is a conversation, because what do we do? The opposite of talking, it's like energy comes out, so to speak. We're putting energy in. So instead of something coming out like our voice, our vocal tones, or sound vibrations, we're putting something in instead. So I feel like there's a very deep connection between the two. And so it's like, do I need to say something? Do I need to have a conversation? Or do I really need to put something into my mouth? And that distinction really helps me. Most of the time, it's really, I just need to talk about something. And a lot of times, I just totally forget about the food and the information that I was trying to put into my body.
Mm. That's powerful. That's really powerful, bro. I feel you. I feel you on that. It's definitely been and usually is a great time for me to tap in with what you're saying, right? Where I have those times to reflect as to what I'm actually seeking. Because sometimes it can get blurry and we might think that, what we need is food, and we think that that's the information that we're seeking, but it might be something else. And when we're fasting, we, at least if you allow it, you can create that space to receive what you need most. Sometimes it might be rest, sometimes it might be social time, or whatever that might be. Like fasting, at least for me, really helps me to understand what information it is that I'm actually seeking, and being tapped in with those signals in my body.
Well, that also brings us to, our conversation yesterday, and what we've been talking about is boundaries.
Mm.
And how important it is to say no, and how that word has two meanings, N-O and K-N-O-W. And when we know, we know. And I think that with the fasting, that's so helpful to understand, because you're it almost by default inevitably puts you into this position where it's like, I'm not putting anything into my mouth. I'm drinking water, and some of us might be having coconut water, a little lemon or ginger juice with it, like whatever it is, but I'm not eating any food. So it inevitably puts us into this position, in my experience, where it's like, like what am I taking in? What is mine? What's not mine? And I think that that's such a crucial message for men, especially now, because we need to be able to discern, and we need to be able to use judgment properly, so that we can set boundaries and ultimately help the evolution of our species forward, because that's what it really can be for. But that takes thinking, and it takes, kind of, as you were saying, Carlos, like when things are blurry, like not jumping into the blurriness, but like staying steady, looking and observing, so then we can actually see things for how they are.
I agree. Yeah, it's really interesting, and in the idea of hunger, right? Even that, and what you're saying about saying no, it's like I'm crazy. Like, I'm just put it out there. I'm crazy. I'm obsessed. I like to go the extra step for everything that I do, and I know that even when I'm taking a break for something, I like to tempt myself. I like to put myself in situations where I'm gonna be, as exposed to that desire. Um, and I give you guys an example. Like yesterday, I noticed that I had some bananas that are definitely gonna go bad by tomorrow. I was like, I don't want those bananas to go bad. I'm gonna go grab those bananas and I'm gonna peel them, put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them. So when I'm done, I can still not waste those. Um, and as you guys know, handling food when you're in a fast is really difficult. But I think I like to challenge myself in those ways because it gives me the opportunity to say no. Because I could have like I could have licked my finger. I could have just like just a little. it's fine. A little potassium. I could have made up any story, but while doing the fast, like I love giving myself those opportunities to really challenge my willpower, to really challenge my commitment to my words, to what I said I was going to do. And I found that that's been a really great way to strengthen my willpower. Because anytime that I feel tempted or I want to do something, I can easily go back to those times where I was like everything in me was like, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. And I was like, I'm good. No, thank you. And yeah, does that make sense though? Like what I'm saying? Like I said, I know it's like a little bit of a psychopath, but Mamba mentality, like, obsessed. That's how I go about it.
Well, is it obsession or is it focus? You know, we live in like I don't know, man. Like I know what you're saying, but like also it's like it seems to me like you carry a certain level of focus that is kind of uncommon in a cookie cutter reality. So, it's like, yeah, I'd say that it's a lot of just being uncommonly focused and being driven, which can be hard to do. And again, in a cookie cutter reality.
I think part of it is to be obsessed though. You gotta be obsessed. And I go to this saying, you gotta stand for something or else you're gonna fall for everything. And the path is straight and narrow. So there has to be a certain level of obsession. And it's interesting because when I was a kid, like they diagnosed me with OCD, like very obsessive behavior. And like as I got older and integrated that into my psyche and into my being, I
Rookie
realized like
superpower.
it's just that I want to go through the process and I want to do it properly. And for myself and my personal journey and also my impact and legacy on others. And it does take a certain level of obsession. And I do acknowledge it's like a super hyper focus too, but there has to be an obsession and it has to take up your mind space, especially now because so many things are vying for our attention and so many things are coming into our space. So I personally find it to be both. And I'm curious when Brian has a moment, like to kind of hear about his perspective on that, especially with his dreams and like some of the things he was sharing today. I'm super curious to hear his perspective when he gets a moment. Love his sweatshirt too by Trippy Vibes. I love that.
Mhm. For real. Let's go. So yeah, this is awesome. I was looking here through like I have a little list of like favorite quotes that I go back to all the time. Um, but I think what's coming up for me here is discipline, right? And it's honestly I feel like it's become punishing for a lot of people to hear discipline because we hear it all the time on social media and it's just like, oh, you're not disciplined and like this is what discipline means and like and it's just so it's like an attack a lot of the times and I think within that we lose the meaning of or at least the power of the fact that discipline is freedom, that discipline gives you more than it actually takes away. A lot of the time, discipline is framed as a sacrifice, as you're losing out or something or missing out, when in reality is, in my opinion, is the opposite. And one of the quotes from Mike Tyson, shout out to Mike for being a king, where he talks about discipline that I love is discipline is doing what you have to do, but doing it like you love it. And I I I I think it's so important for humanity to have more of that. And really lean into the importance of being disciplined and putting themselves in situations where you're really building that discipline. Like whether it is you're like a mirror preparing food for your child that it smells delicious and you're like, let me not eat that right now. That requires discipline and and in my opinion, discipline and willpower are a muscle that we develop. It's not something that you're born with. Some people, are raised with it, so that's something that they develop throughout their childhood. But I really do think that discipline is something that is a skill that's developed. And one of the best ways to show it to your brain that you're disciplined is by stacking evidence, showing it like, look. Oh, look, it keeps stacking. Oh, and look here too. And when you show your brain with that evidence in different areas of your life that you're actually who you say you are, it's not, you don't have to even go around saying like I'm disciplined. Like you just, people will say it for you. Like and I think that's where real discipline comes in. Like people call me disciplined all the time. I don't go around saying, look, I'm disciplined. Like I just do the thing. If that makes sense.
It's like a consequence of your being. It's a consequence of how you're rolling too. And I find that that's really important to think about too. And in my industry, a lot of people tell me what their goals are, only to figure out those are actually mere consequences to being a certain way. And it goes back to our boy Sean's whole whole curriculum on definitions and distinctions. It's so important to know that, because it's like, are you really after discipline, or are you after your purpose? And then the consequence of that, you will be disciplined because that is what you want, because you have that Mamba mentality, that obsession, that hyper focus. It's so I understanding goals and consequences has been a huge thing for me, because I notice a lot of times it's like, I've seen so many people come in and they're like, my goal is to lose 15 pounds. And then upon further deliberation and evaluation, it's, well, why do you want to lose that weight in the first place? Well, my dad died of a heart attack. I don't want to have a heart attack. I want to look after my kids. I don't want to be the fat dad. Like, these are all like the real goals. And that, when we touch on those pain points and we really understand deeply why we're doing something, then ultimately the consequence is going to be discipline. But look at our society, guys. Like, we're sold things every day. We're told to do this. We need this in order to get that. And there's some of that's okay. I get that. And like a lot of it is just fluff. And it doesn't really address the real issue. And my heart of hearts, which leads me to my next thing, I'm curious to hear from you, Kings. I think we live in a society that loves to pass the buck, and you don't need to take responsibility. And like, I mean, even if you look at court, a lot of the times people in claims court, they just have to pay money. They don't even have to admit that what they did was wrong or what they did is not right. Like, our society isn't built on that. It's not built on morality, like real morality, like natural law morality. And I think that that's a big, big problem, because people don't want to be disciplined. They're taught to be fed by daddy government and all these things. And, you know, certain things need to really crumble for things to really happen. My visual is if I'm going on a hike and my backpack is full of rotten food, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to eat this rotten food, and I want to fill my backpack up with the real tools. What am I going to do? I got to take out that rotten food, those rotten potatoes first, then fill my bag up. And I find that humanity has a really, really great window right now to get rid of those rotten potatoes and put them in the compost pile, so that we can actually fill our cups with things that actually have morality and honor, as opposed to bullshit and deception and illusion that just leads us to doing and living lives that aren't even ours.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, like something that's coming up for me right now is what I learned from my mentor, Brandon O'Shoden. He shared with me a quote that I say all the time. It is disruption follows intention. And I've been really thinking about that quote the last few weeks. And really, and he told me this a couple years ago, maybe 3, 4 years ago, something. It's been a while. But what the whole idea of disruption follows intention is understanding that in order for things to change, things need to change. Like we can't expect things to be different. Like we can't expect these books to change order if we don't actually take them out and create a disruption, right? That and then put them back in and create something new. And sometimes we get so caught up on fighting that disruption that we see it as a bad thing. We see it as and myself included. Like I'll find myself seeing disruption and getting upset and being like, oh my God, like that I had this plan for this and it went the other way. And instead of embracing how, hey, that disruption is power. And I chose to be intentional about the life that I'm living. So of course, I'm going to um experience that disruption, but instead of being angry or resistant to that disruption. Instead, it's so powerful to lean into it, and see what I can learn from that disruption, and have an open mind to allow that new configuration of the disruption to be better than what I can even imagine. So that's something that I've been really like diving into and like really exploring, and I've noticed it's just become more and more true as I continue to explore it, for the last few years.
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Wait, you mean like things don't change if I don't do anything, Carlos?
Well, they might even get worse if you do nothing, because I still doing nothing is a choice, right? Like that's the thing. Doing nothing is a choice. Like at the end of the day, and let's talk about that, because a lot of people think that, and I know not you kings on this call, but I see it a lot in the world where people choose inaction thinking that that is not also a decision, because you're deciding not to actually take action. And when you're choosing an action, you're also choosing a result, and you're choosing typically for things to continue to get worse, right? Whatever it is that you're choosing an action in, because there's that natural law of entropy, right? Entropy. So like things are, the universe just decays. So as the spirits that were put on this planet, I truly believe that we're put in this place to create order and organize. And yeah, so does that make sense? Like, am I making sense? Because I want to make sure you guys are following.
10-4.
Yeah, and a good message for men. Kind of like on our meeting earlier, it's really important for men to stand up and really be that warrior that we're talking about. Um, and that was a really big thing that I noticed during COVID, guys. I noticed it hugely. Like I was standing up, and who's around me? I had to look online. There's only a few people in person that would actually stand up with me, and everyone's like going along to get along, and oh, this is not so bad, and it's just like 2 weeks to flatten the curve turned into 2 weeks of absolute chaos, nonsense, mayhem. And people are still going through it. So I find that action is the cornerstone. And I do find that inaction, a lot of the time, it's it's a great step to stop doing things that you don't want to do anymore, like inaction, like stopping yourself and choosing something else. So because inaction is an action. So there's really no inaction here. And as long as we're moving and we're alive, we're always going to be vibrating in action, even if it is an inaction, which is still an action. It's like not giving an answer. That's an
Is it?
answer.
It's a choice. It's a choice, and a lot of time it comes down to like, what are you choosing? Because because you're choosing this over this every time, right? We always have that choice every single moment. So like, what are you choosing? And I always go back to that question. Like anytime that I self-assess, I'm just like, what am I choosing right now? What relationships am I choosing? What habits? What books? What, like, everything? Like, what am I choosing? Because everything that we do, in the 24 hours we have, comes back to that. And yeah, I love it. I just love it. I just love it. I think it really empowers me, like, to understand how much power I have in every moment, as compared to what I've thought in the past. Like, I thought I was a lot less. I thought I was a lot more powerless than I really am, and because I understand my own power, I believe it gives me the ability to teach other people the same thing. Like, hey, do you have a lot of power in you as well? Because all God's children at the end of the day.
Hmm. That's beautiful. Yeah, choice, the power of choice. Yeah, and there is a sense of order and organization, and I find that's what we're doing here. And I find that that's what's really going to help get people out of the calamity that they're in, is bringing order to their life. And to bring up a quote, I thought this was interesting. I heard this from Jordan Peterson once, and what he said is that if there's something that you don't like and you're trying to work on, take that medicine until you're immune to it. So leaning into things and leaning into the uncomfortable things and the conversations that are difficult, lean into it and take that medicine, and then it's not going to be your medicine anymore. And I thought that that was really powerful because again, we live in a society where everything can be comfortable, and don't get me wrong, comfort is important. Like we have to have comfortable homes for that psychological like necessity of safety and also physically. But like it's really important that we lean into some of those things because a lot of the time that's what we need to do anyways. Because we're resisting it. The truth. You know, we're resisting some truth and some honest conversation that is going to help us really break free because knowledge is power, true knowledge. And we have to be in love and truth. We have to be open and like receptive to that in order to actually receive knowledge. So that's what I love about this community and these people. It's like we're not doing things in fear and coercion and saying you need to do this. It's no, like let's explore this together and you figure out what you need to do. And you have a lot of support if you do need support, because that's possible. Sometimes you get into positions where it's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm in a tough spot. I need someone to help me. It's really important that we can trust those people that help us because that's like the ultimate act of surrender, letting go is. And that's also the biggest privilege that people can do for you. You know, it's like if they really trust you with their lives, it's like, man, that's so powerful. And we better show up when that happens. We better know how to show up.
Beautifully put, bro. We really do. We really do. This is awesome. This is awesome. So something that came up for me as well, like and I wrote it down here, and I think, we could definitely touch on this if you guys are open to it, is the fact that skills are consequences. I love talking about skills. The behavior analyst in me is all about, measurable skills that we can actually see and count. And I've seen a lot of after speaking to a lot of young men and being around that environment, I see a lot of frustration in regards to the things that they don't have and the lack of understanding of the skill deficits that they have, and understanding that skills are consequences. Skills are the last step. Like when you master a skill, it's because you've been doing the work for a long time and getting the reps in for long enough time. And notice how I say long enough time because the time is not up to you; it's up to God. Like you just got to do the work. Um, and 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 I think that once we start realizing that, skills are a consequence and something that we earn, it's so freeing in my opinion, because a lot of the time there's a lot of things that when you hear people talk, right, like especially young men, sometimes you hear people say like, I can't do that, no way, that's impossible. And when you really look into it, it's a skill deficit. You start looking and it's like, okay, what is it that you want to do? Well, I want to um speak in stages and do this, or I want to have a multi-million dollar business, do what. And when you start looking at it, it's not that they can't do it, they just don't know how to do it because they're lacking those skills. And when we approach any goal, because people ask me all the time, Carlos, how do you publish multiple books, how do you have a business and nonprofit, like how do you do all those things? I just go back down to the root of it. Like if I don't know if I'm not haven't done it, it's because I don't have the skill. So let me fill those gaps so that I can actually go from point A to point B. Does that make sense? Like the fact that, and I call it fact. I don't use the word fact often, but skills are a consequence.
Mm. I really like that because it almost takes the pressure off of things and also it's very empowering. And it goes back to my thing about goals and consequences. And it's cool to hear about how the consequence is the skill. And it's like, and it reminds me that life is simple, baby. It's so simple. It's about showing up. It's about going to bed on time, eating a good meal, exercising. It's about all these simple things, learning about organization, reading a book. These are all very simple things. Not necessarily easy, but simple. And it reminds me that complexity is layered simplicity. And if we want to get to high levels of anything, we truly have to master the fundamentals. And then the consequence of that is skills. A funny personal anecdote is someone was telling me I was playing flag football, and they're like, this girl's like, she's like, your calves are ridiculous. Like, how did you develop your calves? Like, how did you do that? Like, well, it's like I stayed active, and that was it. That was what developed my muscles, which is a skill, muscle development, if you will. And I was just like thinking about it, it's like I didn't like consciously be like, I need to develop my calves. I need to develop my calves. It's like, no, I exercised and I worked out my whole body and I was physically active. And the consequence of that is having the skills of having a developed physique.
Gains. Sean, I'd love to hear from you. I hear Alex. That's such a powerful share. I love it. And I love how you brought it like full circle as well to what we're talking about here. That was beautiful. Sean, I'd love to hear from you. What's coming up for you, my brother, out there in Chicago?
Well, that's why it's important to know ourselves, this character that we're playing here in this game, guys, because when we know ourselves, then we know some of the things that will be helpful for us to spiral in and out of things effectively and not try and move linear. So when we learn skills, we learn how to spiral our energies because we're actually working on something that, is in coherence with, our adventure here. And like you're saying, Carlos, it's like, skills are consequences of practice. I mean, it's just really that simple. So if people want to attain something, they got to practice. And when we know ourselves, we practice the things that we really want to practice, whatever that means to someone. And as a result, we naturally gain these skills. So it seems extraordinary. It could be, but it's also just practice. It's just like I love the story of Kobe Bryant. He was the first one at practice and he was still there after everyone left. And that's what it takes. So it's like, and when we really start getting that level of focus, we're not trying to compete with anyone. We're really just competing with ourselves. And as a result of that, we let go of a lot of the aggressions that we have with competition, which is a lot of fucking bullshit, in my opinion. I mean, this whole competitive nature in our reality is kind of retarded to me. Because if we really just look at ourselves and develop this experience and we develop the right skills, it's like we just know our role and we're all part of a team and we're not trying to bash each other's head in. Although sometimes a little bit of good competition is fun, but I don't think we need competition anymore, guys. We need competence, we need experience. And like you're saying, we gain skills and then we know our role, we know ourselves, and then we can fit ourselves into this tapestry and this crazy reality in a way where we're not harming people and we're moving in a way where we can actually share what's decent and good with each other and we just know our role. It seems above and beyond, guys, but it just seems like a real simple process to me. And that's why probably all of us are on this call is because we're honing in our skills and our experience. And a wise man will gain experience and skills from everything. They'll gain skills from everything that they work on. Because even the most minute detail or the most meaningless thing can actually be turned into that silly putty that we're using to build our skills, which is really just our experience, you know?
One thing I'll add on, man, I think you're spot on. Like, we don't need to compete and kill each other, survival of the fittest style. And what I have noticed is like, it's just like the call we had earlier about sports. I think that we have competitive energy, and I find that there's great outlets for it. And this is actually something I've been really deep into meditation about. And I've been deep into meditation is can we have a free society without competition? And I assert that we can't. Rather, how do we utilize competition? And how do we do it where it's not so cutthroat? And if you lose, your whole family goes down the drain and has nothing and have to live on the street. Like, there has to be like some safety net and there has to be some like bottom line where it's like, yo, even if you're poor, like, you're going to have food and you're going to have shelter. So you can actually think about how to actually get out of that as opposed to being that perpetual cycle of ultimately violence and nonsense. But I find that that's why I'm so grateful for my sporting experience because when push comes to shove, to your point, Sean, like I realized this is a competition with myself first. And like Like with the flag football on Sunday, I got so competitive on the field. I got heated and aggressive and but then like after the game, I shook hands with everybody and said, "This was so much fun." Like, and this was between me and like, yeah, I wanted to rip your head off a little bit when you got a few extra yards on your run. I wanted to do that, but we leave it on the field and we have sportsmanship and we can have those things and etiquette, and that's why I personally love sports so much because it's such a great avenue for people to explore and use that competitive energy because I'm very competitive and I'm very ambitious and I'm very aggressive with certain things, and it's been a long road for me and a great road to really channel that and work with that.
I love what you guys are bringing up, and I definitely want to dive more into competition, because I I I I I think you both are making a great point. I think that we have an innate competitive edge, all of us. Like I think every human has that. I also believe that for the last few hundred years, we've been using that competitive edge to create division, to create separation. And I think that competition has been used in corporate America, has been used in schools in a destructive way. Where I think it's important for us to have an outlet for competition as humans, not even just as men, like as humans. I think it's important for everyone to have an outlet, kind of like Alex shared, like, going to sport or maybe other areas. But I think we're moving, at least in the business and societal perspective, we're moving from competition to collaboration. And I think that um, we're noticing that, it's literally we're comparing, right? It's either we're gonna be like fight each other or work together to build something. And typically, that competitive edge is, I think, is needed. I think it helps humans to improve as well. That's why I love not diplomacy, where capitalism. That's why I love capitalism, because it really allows the better products to rise up, or at least the ones that are positioned better. And literally, it's a fair field, in my opinion. And I think that in areas like that, competition can be really helpful. I'll use the example of Apple and Microsoft as well. Like in that way, they help each other get better, right? So competition can be helpful, but I think for a long, long time we've been using it in a destructive way. And I think we are truly moving, like Sean is sharing, to away from competition and more into collaboration.
Definitely. Well, I feel like the word competition and collaboration are kind of the one and the same. It's like I feel like the other thing that we're talking about, it really isn't competition. It's just nonsense is what it is. It's really a war strategy, guys. At its heart of it, it's a war strategy. Because real competition, we shake hands at the end. We might have beat each other up on the court because that's what it takes to play the sport. But at the end of the day, there's no hard feelings. It's like, damn, you really got me good, and that was a good game. Like that's real competition. Like we try and raise each other up. Even the person you're working against, you're still trying to raise them up because you know you're playing a game. The other category is artificial war strategy nonsense to me. It's not. It shouldn't even be in the same sentence, quite frankly, because it's not competition. It's dog shit.
And I think it took long enough for me to bring up the UFC, but I love MMA. And one of the things that I love about MMA and the UFC specifically is the fact that a lot of the top level athletes, and we have a lot of former champions and high level people here in Arizona, is the fact that they train together. Like they sometimes travel to different states and different countries and train with each other, and then spend most of their time collaborating, but then also creating that space where's that fight, right? Those 25 minutes where they compete. And they're actually like trying to best each other. Um, and I love that so much because I think that um, um, that ratio is so powerful. Like focusing mostly on collaboration, but still having that very intense, dedicated outlet for competition. And I love that about fighters. I really do.
Well, dude, you bring up such a good point too. Like in both you guys, you guys are bringing up such great points. I just I that's what true capitalism is, not this fake illusory kind. It's like it's so beautiful that we have competition because the best and the people who earn it they're the ones who are going to win. And look, I get when organizations get big, like there's corruption and all that. But corruption's always going to be here. So it's an energy to integrate. And I find that when we actually operate properly, then we can actually work with that energy properly. And, may the best person win. And it's it's an interesting balance. It's a very, very interesting balance. Things that I've been really thinking about deeply for the past 5, 10, 15 years.
On a side note, guys, I really hate to bust your bubble, but legally and technically, we don't have a capitalist society. It's actually socialism, and no one really knows it. That's a whole nother rabbit hole, but we don't have capitalism. Sorry to break it to you guys. We don't.
How
Um,
dare you
we
say
don't.
that?
We don't.
Dare you?
Legally and financially, we don't, but that's okay because when we learn how to use this stuff, it's actually very empowering. But it's not a capitalist society, guys. That's why there's a lot of confusion. It's legally not it's not capitalism at all. They like to throw words around and make up this stuff. It's not a capitalist society, guys. We are actually under socialism, and we have been since 1933. And that's as a result of the Emergency Banking Act. And this is actually a huge part of the cultural psychosis that we live in. We keep calling things that are not what they are. And this is a really big problem. And we really got to clean up these definitions. So when we really start learning how some of these systems work, it's actually very empowering. But we're obviously in a very strange position with all of it right now. But it's not capitalism, guys. I hate to break it to you. I used to think that for a long time. And it's just not true, guys, legally and logically. So, but that's okay because we have a great system and we got to learn how to work with it. So, and that's the other thing. We got to get away from like these misdefinitions and everything, and then we can really start working with what we have and call a lemon a lemon. And I think that that really helps us see things a little bit clearer. And then as opposed to like just getting into our emotions about what we think about this and that, like we can really just look at what we have in front of us and like use it. Like when Batman goes out at night, he looks at his belt. He's like, all right, I got my grappling hook. I got my car. He looks at his tools and he uses them. He doesn't bitch about them. He doesn't make up all these crazy stories. He just uses them. And at the end of the day, we have tools that we can use. And we get so crazy about some of these words, man, which is important, but also there's a lot of delusion around it, guys. It's unfortunate, but that's why we're doing the work that we're doing.
So I acknowledge what you're saying, and we are actually a real capitalistic society. It's just the fact of the matter is it's not expressing that way. It's not expressing that way. And if people actually read and actually put in use moral law and the real constitutional law, the real law from, our forefathers who started this country, if they actually did that properly, then it wouldn't be expressing as a socialistic society. It'd be expressing as a real society, a real republic. But because of the 1933 as you're talking about and all these other factors and people not being responsible and people mismanaging definitions, the expression of it is what we're seeing today. So I don't buy that. I think that that's the illusion that people are living in, and that's what needs to change, because if we actually did it properly, then we wouldn't be in this position at all.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate what you're saying, but how the form and function is, it's not capitalism, man. I know what you're saying at the heart of it, but that's not the world that we live in. And what you're talking about is very valid and important, but that's not the world we live in right now. Unfortunately, it's here, but that's not how it operates. And when we really dive into the codes and how things really work, it's absolutely socialism. And everyone has a really bad like notion of this. And I think that when we like anything else, when we actually use things with integrity, I don't really give a shit what we call it if we can use it in a good way and we don't leave anyone behind, which is insane to me. I'm walking through Chicago. I see all these homeless people begging for food. Like, guys, the society has gone very far off from what we supposedly should be at. But this is where we're at. And that's why we really gotta get our heads straight, and understand because it really clears up a lot of things. And it doesn't mean I like it, doesn't mean I agree with it. But also I'm not also here to be a moral compass about a lot of this stuff. We can't be about moral compass with everything because then we take on too much and then we just fight unwinnable battles and it's not worth it. So um This is where a cold hard carbon steel logic comes into play, and just really being with, like you're saying, Alex, like being really with what is, so that we can understand where we're at. And if we really want to learn and grow, then we gotta treat each other differently. um we really just have to treat each other differently, all of us, in all the relationships, how we think about things and how we operate. It's not an easy task, but we're up to it, guys. We're doing it, and that's why we're doing this work. So um yeah, I see a lot of possibilities, but until we clear up certain things in our mind, it's like we can't clear up anything, because our lens is muddy. We gotta wipe the fog off, take our glasses off, and clean off our glasses a little bit, because the lens that we look through here is very dirty, and it's time for a power washing, and that's why we do this work, guys.
I love this conversation. I love how we're talking about just really powerful stuff. And honestly, I have a very unique perspective as to what capitalism is and like how it shows up. And I think it's uh, y- um, a philosophy, a belief system, right? Like that we can adapt. And my favorite kind of capitalism is humanistic capitalism. I learned about this from the book God Wants You to Be Rich by Paul Sane. And I'll give you guys a definition of humanistic capitalism. Because what I love about it is that it integrates spiritual purpose, service to others, and prosperity into one ideology. And humanistic capitalism, according to Pilser, is the belief that making money and doing good are not mutually exclusive. That capitalism, when guided by faith, ethics, and service, becomes a vehicle for both personal wealth and societal transformation. And to me, that whenever I think of capitalism, I'm thinking of humanistic capitalism. That's the one, and that's the one that I'm personally striving for, because we don't have that right now. That's like the main part of society. We have little bits and pieces here and there, but it's not the majority of where energy and time is going. Um, yeah, that's all I have for you.
Yo, that's exactly what I was talking about. Like, to your point, and it's like what I've always thought is, and what I've always known is that the best way out is through. And like, all these systems can burn, and we can say let's put like moral law and constitutional law, and like people are just they're not buying it, guys, because they're too entrenched. And what I like Buckminster Fuller is, don't fight the old system, make a new system that makes it obsolete. So to your point of humanistic capitalism, like I find that that will be a next step without having the whole world to burn down, because you guys, people can't handle it. Like they're so in deep in the matrix, if you will. And like I get it, like it's completely volatile, it's like violating their entire being, and people can't handle that, literally and figuratively. So I find the best way out is through, and I find we live in a day and an age pretty soon that we can see that we're going to see like money and all these things, it's not the end goal, and we're going to come to a bigger purpose. And I find that when we actually work with all these things in a good way, like the right way, the proper way, it all disappears anyways, and it turns into like an elevation season, it elevates into something else.
100%. And that's one of the principles in God Wants You to Be Rich. And when he's talking about humanistic capitalism, he talks about expanding the economic pie. And through that, we can really create more from what we already have, like truly, instead of the zero sum thinking, right? Like where it's going back to the competitive nature, right? Like I'm trying to beat you and take what's yours, instead of like how can we build together? How can we support each other and then also live in prosperity, but while doing so? Um, yeah, it's really shocking to me that because yeah, that book came out a while back, and the fact that we still like haven't well, let me okay, yeah, the fact that we're still like struggling with that. 95. It came out before I was born. Like it came out before I was born. And the fact that we're still having this conversation and we're so deeply entrenched into destructive ideologies is really shocking to me. It's really shocking to me in to an extent, but it's also not very surprising because humans are beings of, you know, being comfortable and um seeking the hacks and getting things done quickly, like that laziness that is a gift as well. I think has held us back in some areas as well. And I think as we lean into it, we realize how damaging that um, sense of comfortability can be for society. We're gonna start leaning more into um, ideologies like the ones outlined by Paul. I think, I think there's a lot of power in that.
Interesting.
Safe and comfortable, right? Those are the hypnotic words. Safe and comfortable. Safe and comfortable. You'll be safe. Everything's going to be cozy. Don't worry about it. You're going to be safe. Safe and effective, guys. It's psychotic language. You're right, Carlos. 100%, man. It's like in the not it's like what kind of comfort are we talking about? You know? It's like what kind of comfort am I actually talking about? You know?
For sure.
So
And honestly,
interesting.
I love what you're saying because he gets me thinking, like realistically, the hypnotic rhythm, right? From Outwitting the Devil, like that book is really powerful, and he talks about how most people live in this hypnotic rhythm that they're not aware of, and they don't understand that natural law that you can use that hypnotic rhythm to your advantage instead of letting it kind of instead of, like, letting the current drag you. You can learn to actually, kayak through it and work with it and use it for your own benefit. And so many people are stuck in those rhythms. So many people are stuck in those patterns and cycles that they're not even aware of. They have no clue that they're in, and creating, right, bringing it right back to what I was saying before, like creating that disruption is so important. Like, and also when creating that disruption, making sure that there's those safety rails, like to make sure that no real damage is created, but transformation still happens. Does that make sense? Beautiful. Well, we are at the 1 hour mark, Kings. Anything else you want to share before we end the call? I think it's been a very, very powerful, very fasted, very hungry call. And yeah, and I definitely love to hear from you guys. If you guys have anything else to share before we call it.
It's been great, guys. Thanks for the conversation.
Great as always, Kings. Thank you so much for showing up and for the short notice on the call time. Looking forward to tapping in with you guys next week on Monday.
Love it. I love it. Appreciate everyone that was on here live and know the people are going to be watching this recording. I'm very much looking forward to these calls. Like there's so much power in these, and we're gonna have a lot more really high level people joining us every single week. And I'm excited to share those conversations with you guys as well, because these conversations have been happening behind the scenes for a long time. But it's time to put it out there and share it with the world. So um, stay tapped in. Make sure you plug into everything that we have going on Young Kings University, Young Kings U on Instagram, the Young Kings Blueprint on Amazon. The podcast is going to be dropping on YouTube as well. Stay and Spotify, so stay on the lookout for that. I appreciate you, Kings, for your time and your energy. Stay blessed, and don't think about pizza.
Love you guys. Have a great night.
See you guys. Thanks for tuning in.